Americans do not care about cricket. It's the truth. Most of them don't even know about it yet. And yes, that is despite their own team doing wonders at a World Cup that they themselves are hosting. Of course, cricket in America has long been overshadowed by homegrown sports like football, basketball, and baseball. But some recent unexpected success has significantly boosted USA's prestige. On June 6, 2024, the US cricket team stunned the cricket world by defeating Pakistan. Just days later, the team advanced to the tournament's Super 8 stage, their best ever record. And these achievements have come after years of efforts behind the promotion of cricket in the biggest economy of the world. Over $1 billion worth of investment has gone into developing cricket domestically in the US, which includes the launch of Major League Cricket. And let me remind you, cricket is also slated to be featured at the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. However, despite all of these efforts, cricket remains an alien sport in the USA. Some horrible missteps and some unfortunate events have spoiled the plan of the International Cricket Council to truly popularize the sport in the far west. Why are so many Americans still unaware that they even have a national cricket team in the first place? Beyond the Desi diaspora, why is most of America still not interested in cricket? And how did the 2024 edition of Men's T20 World Cup, the event which was supposed to rocket launch cricket in the USA, instead ended up contributing towards more problems? Let's unravel it all at Stumps, Stats and Stories. When the ICC decided to award the United States the hosting rights for the World Cup alongside the West Indies, it was considered a bold step. It was always a decision that came with high hopes but also significant risks. As the tournament's start date was approaching, anticipation was quietly building. The West Indies, with their rich cricketing heritage and 2 T20 World Cup titles, are an established powerhouse. In stark contrast, cricket in the US is very nascent, striving to carve a niche in a sports landscape dominated by the NFL, NBA, and MLB. The ICC was banking on this high-profile event to ignite cricket's popularity in America. Traditionally, the T20 World Cup has thrived in cricket-centric nations such as India, Australia, and England, where infrastructure and fan bases are robust. The US, however, presented a different challenge. While rich in sports facilities, the country lacked the cricket-specific infrastructure needed for such an event. This led to a significant investment, highlighted by the construction of the Nassau Cricket Stadium in New York, which was completed in just a 3-month period at a cost of $30 million. One of the tournament's marquee matches, the India vs Pakistan showdown, took place at this new 34,000-seater stadium. The match expectedly drew a significant crowd, particularly from a large subcontinental expatriate community in the US. From the get-go, ICC's ambitious plan faced stiff competition from other major sporting events. The NBA Finals, NHL Stanley Cup, and the US Open Golf Tournament all coincided with the T20 World Cup, creating a crowded sports calendar that would easily overshadow cricket's introduction to the American audience. Last year's inaugural Major League Cricket season showed promise, thanks in part to investment from IPL owners. This helped familiarize American sports fans with the league format that they love. And despite this, the usual buzz surrounding the T20 World Cup seemed muted this year. The ICC launched promotional campaigns, including the Out of This World campaign, with giant cricket balls in iconic locations like Times Square, but the excitement in the US remained lukewarm. Disney, holding the media rights in India, had even expressed concerns about the lack of promotion, compounded by the time zone differences that could affect viewership. The uncertainty within the USA Cricket Board, facing potential suspension, added another layer of complexity. When the tournament started, it slowly started to become evident that the problems went beyond factors like competition from other sports, lack of media promotion, and administrative uncertainties. The problems lie in the game itself. You see, ICC was very buoyed by how the recent edition of IPL had unfolded. The 2024 IPL season was simply exhilarating. It was an absolute assault on the senses, with runs being scored in overwhelming amounts. Several records were broken, including the most centuries scored by batters, the most number of 200 plus and 250 plus scores, the highest score after the 10 over mark, the most sixes in an IPL innings, the most sixes in a single season, and the list goes on and on. This IPL was nothing short of a spectacle of fireworks that went on for nearly 2 months. Cricket's biggest superstar, Virat Kohli, emerged as the season's highest scorer. Fans were happy, and so were the broadcasters, the advertisers, the bookies, and guess who? The ICC. Now, coming into the World Cup, everyone expected the same flavour to carry on, with added passion that is fueled by national pride. Players hitting sixes for fun is what everyone got used to and what everyone wanted. But as we all saw, the matches didn't quite unfold in the same way. The pitches in venues like New York, Dallas, and Florida were not quite the type where batsmen could score freely. The drop-in pitches used at the New York Cricket Stadium was in fact criticized for its uneven bounce. It stood out as a glaring misstep by the ICC, especially when balls erratically flew from length, marring 3 of India's matches in the group stage. To address this, the groundsmen overcompensated, rolling the track so much that it became sluggish, making even modest targets of 115 on 120 difficult to chase. And while this still did make the matches exciting and closely fought, it wasn't perhaps the best thing for this particular World Cup. Let me explain. Cricket is a slow sport. Definitely slower when compared to the 3 most popular sports in the USA: basketball, football, and baseball. The average length of a T20 cricket game, with all the breaks and timeouts included, is nearly 4 hours, which is typically longer than the duration of the games the American audience is accustomed to enjoy across all their favorite sports. Moreover, longer formats of cricket have traditionally had fewer edge-of-the-seat drama moments compared to the length of the games, like hitting a six or taking a wicket, thus ranking it typically lower on a scale of high adrenaline sports. T20 is the shortest format of the game, and even that requires high-scoring matches to keep the quote-unquote thrill going. Native Americans, raised on the high-octane action of the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox, found little to entice them in matches with scores of 95, 113, and 119. The low-scoring matches did very little to excite the average American. Yes, there were far more matches in the IPL, but still, teams breaching the 200 mark 41 times is a mind-boggling figure. Compared to that, teams have scored more than 200 runs only 17 times in the entire history of the World Cup. And in this edition, it has happened only 3 times. Only 56 sixes were hit in the first 8 games, averaging about 7 per match, which is hardly a compelling advertisement for the sport in an uncharted territory where viewership heavily relies on the Indian diaspora. For context, there was one IPL match this season that alone saw 42 sixes. You might think, alright, low scoring games can still draw crowds if you have individual players who are superstars. So let's talk about the poster boy of world cricket, Virat Kohli. With over 269 million followers on Instagram, Kohli was touted as the biggest ambassador of cricket in the USA. As mentioned before, he came into the World Cup on the back of an incredibly successful IPL. And ICC got him to try and promote the game in every way possible. Within just a matter of days, social media users saw him meeting NBA legend John Starks and collaborating with Conor McGregor to launch a pain relief brand. Brand Virat Kohli was being soft launched in the USA even before the World Cup started. He himself had once acknowledged it by saying, "I know my name is attached to promoting the game in different parts of the world." But the Virat Kohli show did not quite land as promised. For the little section of Americans who did get hyped about the megastar, it all turned out a little anticlimactic. After a string of single-digit scores by him in the group stages, the hype was at its peak during the India's clash with arch rivals Pakistan, against whom Kohli had played one of his most iconic innings the last time that they met at a similar stage. But Kohli got out very early in the innings, so yeah, very anticlimactic. Then, timing issues also compounded the problem. To attract regular crowds, matches need to be scheduled in the evening. However, catering to Indian broadcasters' demand for an 8 p.m. IST start meant weekday games saw sparse attendance. Empty seats were a common sight, particularly during India's midweek clash against Ireland. Next in line is ticket pricing. Yes, ticket pricing also alienated potential fans. The minimum price for an India vs Pakistan game was $300, with corporate boxes reaching $10,000. By contrast, the cheapest tickets for a New York Yankees game are $46, and marquee seats for NBA teams like the Los Angeles Lakers or Chicago Bulls are around $3,000. And last but not the least, what compounded the problems was a sense of underpreparedness from the organizers at the ground level. Florida's Fort Lauderdale, a regular venue for international cricket, faced its own issues. Despite being prone to inclement weather, the ICC failed to provide adequate ground cover, resulting in 3 washouts in as many days. Now, despite all of these concerns, the ICC is determined to establish a lasting legacy from the T20 World Cup. And they are taking some initiatives to take the sport beyond just an event. Profits from matches in New York, Florida, and Texas will be reinvested into cricket's growth in the US. The ICC's Playground to Podium initiative aims to engage 1 million children, half of them girls, by the 2028 LA Olympics. This ambitious program seeks to establish a sustainable cricket culture through schools, community leaders, and grassroots efforts. Regional Development Manager Farah Gorsi emphasized the need for a tailored approach, leveraging local resources to develop facilitators and coaches. Long-term plans include integrating cricket into the college system, crucial for any sport's success in the US. Despite persistent hurdles to achieving widespread popularity, the sport's most fervent advocates remain optimistic about its trajectory. However, the problems highlighted earlier cannot be ignored. For cricket to gain a foothold in the USA, significant improvements at systemic levels are necessary. To begin with, the administration must prioritize creating quality pitches and a robust organizational structure. This task is compounded by the need to engage locally born players and instill a passion for the game. Some exciting contests here and there may offer a temporary distraction. But unless the ICC addresses these glaring issues, cricket in America will remain a niche sport, played and watched primarily by South Asians. And this hardly constitutes true globalization of the game.